Hello and welcome to this edition of SFG Top Performance. Today we're doing the Grain and Feed podcast. With me is Scott Goetz from our Milo office and Kent Watson from our Albia office in the feed division. So we'll tear into the markets just a little bit on the grain side. Right now, weather is about the only major factor that's moving the markets. Demand has kind of stagnated a little bit. The exports have slowed down. South America has still got beans to ship. They're harvesting their safrinha corn right now, and so it's available to the world market. And today they're underpricing us a little bit. There's still a debate out there of how much safrinha corn or second crop corn they'll end up with, as they've had a lot of weather issues, including some frost problems here the last month. You got to remember they're just the opposite of us, so they're kind of in their November, probably October to November time frame down in those parts of the country. So in this country, it appears that a lot of us got through pollination in decent shape, particularly in this area. We had ample moisture, most of us, and the temperatures we're on the warm side, but not severe. Well, most of the pollination was taking place. So the ears that the scouts have been looking at, it appeared the pollination had been complete. Now there's areas to the west and north where they've had some dry weather issues all along this season, and it's yet to be determined what the final outcome will be in those areas. So on the beans, of course, we've got more time for bean development and production. If you travel in this area from definitely Highway 92 north, things look pretty good, and really down throughout Marion County, it looks pretty good. You get south of there into Lucas, Wayne, over to Appanoose, Monroe, the beans have probably gone downhill, if anything, and went backwards a little bit the last month. We've actually had too much rain. And some areas, it's been that way almost all spring and into the summer. And so this dry, hot weather was kind of welcome in those areas. We've had some people travel down to southeast Iowa in the last 2 weeks, and they say crops look pretty tough over that way. They were late planting because of wet weather. And so there's going to be some areas that we have subpar yields. But back to this Knoxville, Pleasantville area, I'm not sure things could look any better at this point in the game. So the corn's getting closer every day to being pretty much made. Beans, we got to get through August, make sure we get some rain. At last report, nationwide, 36% of the corn acres were still affected by some type of drought, and 31% of the bean acres are in that boat. 99% of the spring wheat acres were in some type of drought. So there's still going to be a shortage of spring wheat. The market recognizes that. It appears it's kind of peaked out price-wise, as they'll find other sources to take care of that. New crop prices, corn and beans, it's been kind of playing a give and take game. We continue to see so much volatility. There's been several days that we've had more volatility in a day, in one single day, than we've had some years, in the whole cropping year. And that just shows you that we've become a world market. A lot of outside money is involved here, and we have to have that. Without the speculator, we would have a tough time establishing a market. We all would prefer to say it's truly a supply and demand, but it's not. It takes that speculation in there. Fall bids, corn were in that 5 1/4 range, give or take. Beans in the upper 12s. They've come down a little bit, but like I said earlier, we've got a lot of weather to contend with on the bean crop, so we could still see some good opportunities to price some beans. One of the analysts that I read daily, he's been saying for 6 months he could make a case for $17 fall beans and turn right around and make a case for $10 fall beans, and he said, I can make you believe either one. And I think that's true. There's just a lot of unknowns yet. So we'll see how that goes off. I think meanwhile, as farmers, we need to continue to do everything agronomically possible we can do to maximize our yield. So on the bean side, we still got time to put a fungicide on. Some areas there's some insect problems popping up, and it's pretty easy to add an insecticide as you do the fungicide treatment. So contact your SFG agronomy staff, and they'll go over the pluses of doing a fungicide treatment on beans. Over the years, I think it's been proven that we see a more consistent result on beans than we do corn. Originally, when we first started using fungicides, corn was the master use of fungicides. But as hybrids have become more defensive, we've learned that we get a lot better return on investment on the bean side. So it's a kind of a no-brainer in my book, and they'll be glad to sit down and talk to you. Otherwise, we continue to price new crop grain daily, and would welcome your calls at any of our offices, or you can call here at the Knoxville office and visit with me. Let's switch over to the feed side, and we're kind of in the middle of county fair time, and that's a big part of rural Iowa. Continues to be, and of course the weather is indicative of county fair weeks. It's usually hot, a lot of times it's dry, so we'll step on over to Kent and get his take on things.
Thanks, Mark. Well, to add to that temperature, all you have to do is step outside and you're definitely in the dog days of summer.
Yes.
And with that comes heat stress on our livestock. There's a term called thermal regulation, and basically that is the regulation of body temperature within an acceptable range that helps avoid heat or cold stress. And generally that range runs from 20 to 30 degrees on the low end to only up to 70 degrees on the high end. And obviously we're well above that 70-degree plateau or threshold. And so our animals start to suffer. And when we think of this heat stress, the animals actually need more energy so that they're able to cope with this heat stress. Whether it's there's a lot of physiology taking place in the animal, whether it's blood flow to the extremities or respiration, but they need extra energy so that they're able to dissipate this heat. Conversely, when they're in this heavy heat time, they're eating less, and so it's sort of a catch-22. They need more energy, but they're actually consuming less feedstuffs, and so what happens over a period of time, the animal's performance will start to decline. So, there's some things that we can maybe do to help these animals with this stress level. Some of the obvious ones, anything to do with less stress, would be like making sure your fly control is as good as possible, providing as much shade as you can, and most importantly, making sure that there's plenty of fresh water for these animals. But there's some nutrition things that we can do also that can help these animals on stress as well. In dairy cattle, they feed sodium bicarb, and the primary reason is to make the rumen healthy, so that they're able to be more efficient with their feedstuffs, so they don't have to eat as much of a ration and still get the benefit from it, so they're able to maintain their body functions. And also, any type of a buffering agent helps the animal. It produces magnesium, potassium, and sodium, which are three important minerals that are very effective in helping the animal with heat stress. Now, we don't go out in the pastures and usually feed sodium bicarb, but one of the things we can do is provide the animal something that helps them with licking action. When they do that, what they do is create more saliva, and when what's in that saliva is bicarbonate. So you get a lot of the same benefits as feeding sodium bicarb by just the saliva that the animal produces. So not only does that help the rumen stay healthy, but it also, like I said, you get greater utilization from that grass that they're consuming. So what we can do to help that licking action is provide like feed tubs. Not only does that help the licking, but it's a very high concentrate of nutrients in these tubs. And so at 1/2 or 1 pound of consumption, they're able to get a high level of vitamins, trace minerals, and protein and energy. So it's something that maybe as producers is something that we might want to take a look at. It's for the money. It's a great return on your investment. So if you have any questions about what kind of tubs you might want to take a look at, talk to Scott or myself or Mark down at Albia, and we'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. So
Thanks, Kent. Scott, go ahead and let's hear what you got to say today.
Yeah, it sounds like we're headed back into the sauna this weekend. So kind of going along with what Kent was talking about, not only stress but nutrition in our cows right now. We're kind of getting to that time of year where we need to be watching the condition of our cows. Nutrition levels are going down in the grass, and the calves are pushing nutrition requirements up in the cows. If the cows start dropping condition, we might have to start feeding some supplements or maybe creep feed for the calves. First calf heifers are the most at risk, on top of the grass going down and away, and like still nursing the calf, the heifer is still growing. Best thing you might be able to do in this case is maybe early weaning, getting the calves off of the heifers. This is a place where creep feeding comes in. If they've been running to a feeder, they have already learned how to eat, and their rumen's been developing to an energy-based diet. This takes a lot of the stress out of the weaning process for them. Once you get them weaned, you have a couple different choices. You could go with just pull the creep feeder in, let them keep eating the creep feed, keep them eating that way. Or we have a couple different receiving feeds from Kent and Hubbard. These are very good products. They're loaded with nutrition. They're very palatable, and they're easy to digest. You can feed these for 14 to 21 days, and you'll get your calf off to the best start possible. Good starts are the key to easy weaning and healthy calves. Once you get the calves off the heifers, they might need a little protein supplement, but they will have time to recover and regain condition before winter gets here. So it's getting to be fair time again, like Mark said. I've visited a couple of area fairs so far. I love to walk through the barns and see the kids working on their projects. Some of these kids will be done with livestock when they get out of school, but some of them might be future livestock producers. But either way, they're gaining knowledge that will be with them for the rest of their lives, and that's what it's all about. And I think that's about all I got for you today, Mark. Oh, one other thing.
Yep.
Due to construction, the Milo elevator is completely shut down at this point for a couple weeks, so if you need anything grain-wise, get a hold of us. We still got Pleasantville and Melcher available to us, and if you're needing anything other than that, get a hold of me and we'll get something worked out for you.
Okay, Scott. Well, thanks. A little further update on construction within the company at the Knoxville, Maine location. We're putting a new scale deck on. We hope to be done with that. The pour will happen next week, and then we'll need about 10 days to cure. We'll be back in business. We're also putting a new scale in at Centerville. That was a planned thing for the last couple of years, and it'll be placed at a different location than where the present scale is, so we'll continue in operation while that goes on down there. Otherwise, we're doing maintenance work at all the elevators. We want to make sure we're ready to go. We think harvest could actually start on the early side if this heat continues. So that wraps up this edition of our podcast. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.